Welcome to this webinar on understanding the scope and deriving the main point of a passage. The process that we are going to discuss today is not only going to help you for the main point, the main idea of the main idea questions, it's also going to help you across a lot of questions which need you to understand that main idea. So let me not waste any more of your time and let me quickly start. So what is this main point or main idea? Now this is simple, okay? It is the central idea, the theme, the topic, the crux of the passage. It is, in a way, you can say, the main motive why the author is writing that passage, all right? So understand, the main idea is therefore something that is the author's intention behind writing the passage. He's writing that passage so that he can convey that single idea across to the readers, all right? So that's a simple thing about the main point. What we need to also remember is a couple of characteristics of the main point. What should a main point answer have? Okay, and this is very important because if you leave out any one of these things, if any one of these things is missing, you will probably go wrong with your answer choice. So the first thing is it's a single sentence synopsis of the intent of the full passage. Okay, so it should be covering the entire passage. All right, it covers the entire passage. It is not just about a single idea, even though it might look as if that idea is the major idea. It should be something that spans the entire passage. All right, and it should be precise. You have to be very, very careful because I'm sure, as we were discussing right now, that there is a certain point you're confused about, or you're not able to mark that correct answer. It is because of that lack of precision. You have to be very precise about the central idea. We're going to talk more about this, guys, so don't worry. The next point that we are going to look at is, so now we have understood what is the main idea. We have understood what are the characteristics of this main point. All right, how is this main point derived? Now this is interesting, and a lot of you might also know it, but how to derive the main point, we're going to go behind the nitty-gritty of that. Literally, I'm going to hold your hand through the process and show you how to do it so that you can emulate that process on your own. All right, a lot of these online videos, they tell you that how to derive the main point, but I'm going to walk you through that. All right, so let us start by understanding the motive of the passage is what. Okay, it is to arrive at the main point. All right, the motive of the author is to arrive at the main point, to reach a conclusion. Fine. How does the author do that? How is the author going to do that? Clearly, in order to arrive at a point, the author will discuss different aspects of that point, different aspects of that main idea. All right, so what will the author do? Ideally, the author is going to use different paragraphs to cover different aspects. Or if it is a single paragraph, the author is kind of going to dedicate few lines to each of these aspects and cover those aspects. And therefore, each paragraph converges into the main idea. So understand, you cannot reach the main idea without really understanding what each paragraph is divulging. So what is needed is that you need to map the passage. You need to make para summaries. We're going to show that. Before you say, oh, we already knew this, please understand there's something different. I'm going to show you something that is actually doable. All right. But then the process is the same. You have to make para summaries and then arrive at the main idea. Now, let me straight away ask all of you one question. So, how many of y'all were with us? Okay, let me just reset this one. So how many of y'all were with us in our last webinar on involved and evolved reading, guys? How many of you were there with us in the last webinar? Although it's not connected, but I'm curious. How many of you were there with us in the last webinar on reading and comprehension last week? Last Sunday, to be precise. Okay, I see there's a small percent of you who, all right. So a major percentage of this class is new. Great going, guys. Then I'm going to really enjoy showing you the ropes, and I hope you're going to enjoy yourself as much as I think you're going to do. So that was that. Let me end the poll here. Okay. Let me see now. So the next question is how to map this passage and make the para summaries. Okay. So those of you who were there with us already are aware of what is involved and evolved reading. But for those of you who are not aware of it, the only way you can arrive at that para summary, at that main point, is to follow the involved and evolved reading approach. Okay. If for those of you who were unable to attend that webinar, worry not. You can watch the recording of that webinar. It's available on our on YouTube. Okay. Uh, Otherwise, in today's session also, I'm going to actually follow involved and evolved reading to show you how to map the passage. So you can also follow me and you can identify this approach, this unique approach that only GMAT Viz can brings to the platform. All right. So what I'm going to do is, guys, I'm going to give you first. I'm going to give you provide you with I'm going to share a PDF document with you guys. I'm going to start sharing now. All right. I want all of you to download this PDF. Okay. Now listen carefully to the directions so that you all of us are on the same page. The PDF contains 3 passages. Okay. I don't want you to do all 3 passages. You're going to do 1 passage at a time, and only then when I'm going to ask you to do it. All right. Okay. There's a reason behind this. If you solve it on your own, it's not going to be fun. So, can all of y'all are all of y'all being able to download that PDF? It's titled Session Passages. Yes, I would like you to reply in the chat if you are being able to download the PDF, guys. I'm sharing the file right now. So if you're able to download it, please answer a yes. Okay, okay, great, great. So Soumya, Elena, Jagannath, great. Venkatesh, Kulbir, great. Thank you, guys. So now what I want you to do is, okay, you will see there are 3 passages. Okay, the first is about the antebellum period, the second is about dinosaurs, and the third is about Adam Smith. So I've taken it covering a wide range, right from history to science and then to business. So we'll have fun today. And what I want you to do is just go through the first passage when I tell you to go through that. I'm going to give you a certain time. I want you to answer the 2 questions on that passage. The first passage only, guys. Okay, clear? I'm going to give you exactly 4 minutes. There are just 2 questions over there, and I'm going to give you 4 minutes of maybe 4.5 if you are all good, guys. And then we are going to discuss all about how to be able to answer those questions successfully and with great confidence. All right. So I think so. Here is the screen. I mean the passage is here, but you can read it from your PDS. Your time starts now, guys. All right, 4 minutes to the T. So go ahead. I'm going to mute myself in the meantime. Once the 4 minutes are up, I'm going to bring up the polls for the 2 questions where you can mark your answers. All right. So all the best, guys. Okay, guys, you have 30 more seconds. All right, before I stop and bring up the polls. So, paka. Okay, guys. So I'm going to bring up the polls, and I want you to be really honest and just stop working on whatever you were doing, unless until it was just marking the answer. All right, because we also want to keep tabs on our time. All right. Okay, here comes the poll for the first question. All right, and do resist the temptation to look at the next passage. Okay, we are going to discuss that. So let me just bring up the poll. Here's the poll for the first question, guys. I'm going to give you around 10 seconds to put in your polls, all of you. 5, 6, sorry, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, so I'm going to end this poll, and all right, here I end it. So let me just note down and let me share the results with you. Very interesting, guys. And today, this session is really going to be interesting, guys. You've got to have a little bit of patience to see the magic that we are going to work. All right. And to see why you usually, I can right away see, So we'll have to just, you'll have to just be patient with me a little bit. Vaibhav, don't worry if you're late. Uh, there was this question that there was this first passage that I have shared. So I think you can still see it. It's still being shared. Okay. So let me share the results of this question. 8% of you went with A. Then 60% of you, that's the majority, went with B. 24% went with C. Okay. 4% went with D, and another small 4% went with E. All right, let me reset the poll. Here comes the poll for the second question. I'm going to give another 10 seconds to mark this. Go ahead and let me see what are your answers here. This is for the second question. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm going to Ashwin, the poll for question 1 has already been done. So if you want to put in your answers, you put in here. I'll check it out. Okay, Ashwin. So I'm going to end the poll for the second question here, guys. Ashwin, put in your polls for the second question. I'm going to end it now. Okay, so this is interesting. Let me see. Once again, I have 8% for A. Then I've got another small 8% for B. I've got 34% for C. Oh my God, 34% for D as well. And then 13% for E. This is going to be really interesting. All right, guys. So now let me ask my wonderful questions. Thank you, Ashwin. I've noted that down for the first question and the second question. Great. So guys, tell me, how many of y'all were confident, huh? How many of y'all were confident while you were marking the answers? And this is important because, in the exam, lack of confidence will play with your mind. It will mentally affect you. It's going to mentally impact your performance in the other questions. So you've got to be really happy about your performance, okay? So I've got a 50. All right, I'll wait a moment. Okay. So I've got, okay, this is so, I've got a 50. Oh God. Okay, so now it's changing, guys. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now for this. So 46% of you were confident and 53% of you were not confident. It's good to admit that's the first step, what you really feel, because you know that this is a shortcoming and you need to improve that. So I want you guys to remember this answer, all of you. Those of you who were confident that they were marking the right answer, all right, and those of you who were not confident when you were marking the right answer, or where you were confused between which answers. I want you to remember your experience, guys. Okay. So, how did you like the passage? How did you like the passage? Was it easy, difficult? It's an official passage, of course, and it's a 700 plus level passage. So I just want your, views on the passage. How did you like it? It was selected specifically for this session because it's really very cumbersome to do a very long passage, but the process remains the same. Yes, guys, some replies from you would be really wonderful. about how you liked the passage. Lipsa says she could not understand the second paragraph. You're going to talk about that, Lipsa. Elena says she didn't like it. It's difficult. Elena, I'm going to help you today to really decode such passages. So get ready for that. Ashwin says it's a moderate one. Tricky answer options. Yes, Ashwin. One of the ways the passage is made difficult is by giving you those tricky answer choices. Okay. Um, Arti finds it a bit difficult. Soumya says it's moderate. Venkatesh says it's moderate. Kulbi says passage was okay, but the questions and options were kind of close. Yes, Kulbi. Shivam, second question was difficult. So, Shivam, that's a good thing that you raised. Second question was difficult. You'll find that if you were able to understand the main point correctly, answering the second question would have been easier. We're going to discuss that. Ketan says it was tough. Kumar Sachin finds it tough. It was kind of tough, I would say. Deceptively simple jo hota hai na, वैसा. Himani finds it tricky options. Neelab says passage was easy. Swapnil says history. Swapnil, I'm going to remove all your fears about history today. In fact, you don't need to be feared of any topic. That's what I'm going to show you. Riddhi says it was easy. Jagannath says, okay, not so much involved in the passage. All right, Jagannath. Anand says passage was easy, questions were tricky. So Abhinash says close answer options. Sachin says topic makes it difficult. Now, a couple of things I would like to point out here, guys. I want you guys to remove all this from your mind, that the topic makes it difficult, or if it's history, I can't solve it. And what we're going to do today is we're going to follow a process which is going to make any kind of passage within our reach. I want you to be a little patient with me, guys. Some of it might look repetitive, but it is not. If you really, 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 really want to improve your scores, just bear with me. So here, tell me one thing. What was the most difficult thing in the first question? Why was the first question difficult for most of you? Well, Ashwin, unfortunately, GMAC is, it likes to take in a global perspective. Um, Lipsa, yes, we will do that. Lipsa says she wants to come to that position where one answer is correct. Yes, Lipsa, that's what exactly we're aiming for. Okay, guys, my question. What was it about the first question that was really irritating, difficult, annoying, tricky? What made the first question tricky? So Asha, why were you confused between A and B? Can you tell me? Alina says the passage itself made her crazy. Okay, Alina. So the passage is there, but I'm talking about the questions. What exactly about the questions were a little difficult? What was confusing, Riddhi? Now, I'm not saying B was wrong or A was wrong or C was wrong. It's not like that, Jagannath. I want to understand what was it exactly that confused all of you about the first question. The sentences are short. So what was it? What was really confusing? Anand says every answer was related with one thing or the other. Yeah, Anand, that is definitely there. Um, so Shivang was confused between C and D. Okay, I think I'm going to ask you this question out and out because my next agenda is that. How many of you find such words really confusing? Examine, establish, present, discuss, analyze. How many of you? Let me bring up a poll for that, I think. Wait. How many of you all find such words which are very typical of primary purpose questions confusing? How many of you all find these words confusing? How many of you all are, sometimes confused because you don't know what to make of these words? Say if you have two choices saying pretty much ideas from the passage, and one is talking about analyzing, the other is talking about discuss or examine. Yes, I was sure that a lot of you found that confusing. All right. Very good. Kulbir actually said it. Establish, present, discuss. All right. So let me see. 77% of you find these words really difficult. Now, let me tell you, let me share my experience with you guys. So when I was a student training for this long time back, I was also confused by these words. Okay. Sometimes the choices were very close, the rest of the answer choices, the rest of the sentence was very close. The only thing that was different was these words, and I wouldn't know what to do. I mean, for me to me, examine and analyze and discuss and everything looks the same. So when I was going through this phase of making this course, I thought this is a pain point that we should address, and GMAT Wiz does exactly that. So in the next few slides, I'm going to talk about this particular point, and this is going to help you in eliminating a lot of choices in primary purpose questions, guys. Okay. So what are these confusing words? Okay. These are words which similar. Okay. They all like kind of give you a similar feel, but they're very distinguishable in meaning. Okay. Some examples would be words like describe and analyze and argue and establish. They kind of give you that similar feeling. I mean, what is the difference between analyze and argue? It's almost the same thing. What is the difference between describe and analyze? It's almost the same thing. All right. So what we did at GMAT Wiz is we kind of grouped them. Okay. Words which were used by GMAT RC passages to give off a similar meaning. For example, words like describe, explain, discuss, present, all of these are used to indicate the same function. Okay. I'll talk to you about what that function is. So hold on to that. Again, in group 2, you will find words like evaluate, assess, examine, analyze. Again, we have found in our research that these words have been used with similar connotations by GMAT in their RC answer choices for primary purpose questions. In group 3, we find words like challenge, question, argue, contest, criticize. Notice how the word argue and analyze are in different groups. Okay. Notice how the word assess and discuss are in different groups. I want you to notice this because I don't think some of you may not have given this much thought, but actually sometimes it is a decider. And that is what I found in my research. All right. Then you have a group which uses words like establish and prove. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. So you will rarely be confused between words of the same group. I mean, I'm sure nobody would be confused between describe and explain, or challenge and question, or establish and prove. Okay, but I'm sure you have been at times confused between, okay, discuss and evaluate, evaluate and challenge, discuss and establish, for example. All right. So here is the differentiating factor. I want you to look at this. Okay. So when you look at the group 1 questions, all of them are supposed to give you details and explanations without actually presenting the author's agreement or disagreement. Usually here the author is not trying to convince you of anything. The author is just trying to present something, just discuss something, give you some details about it and explain about it. On the other hand, when you look at group 2 words, evaluate, assess, examine, analyze, here you will find the author going into an in-depth study in order to come up with a conclusion of his or her own. Okay. So the motive here, if you're using such words in the RC passage primary motive questions, the motive is that the author wants to delve deep into the sea of information and come up with a conclusion, which is not cannot be said for group 1 words. Group 3 words, again, so we were talking about argue and analyze. Now in an analysis, the author is not trying to kind of go against any opinion. All right. But in group 3, you'll find the author is raising questions, expressing doubts about beliefs. Okay. And therefore it's different than just merely analyze or assess. All right. Remember, here we're talking about the intent of the author. So whether the author intends to argue or whether the author intends to merely analyze, there is a difference here. Okay. Similarly, if we are using words like establish and prove, then clearly here the author wants to remove the doubts. So the author presents the passage in a way where doubts are given and then the doubts are removed. Okay. So you can see clearly here how these words might make a difference. Is this clear, guys? Let me just reset the poll. Does this make sense to all of you? How is this? How did you find this? I'm sure you have never really come across this and you've never really given it a thought in the same manner. How was this for you? This clarification on confusing words. You can give me your opinions in the chat box also, so that we know whether it's helpful to you or not. Now, I'm sure some of you might be looking at your, choices with mixed feelings. So I got a small no there. Let me see what that is about. So Ketan says he never imagined this can be made so easy. So, Ketan, this is one of the things that we have incorporated in our reading and comprehension module. It's one of its kind. Thank you, Jagannath says it makes a lot of sense and he's got some clarity. Soumya says, do we need to remember the differences? Well, Soumya, consider this. If you come across in the same, question, a word with a sentence, two sentences which are similar, one starts with argue, the other starts with analyze, wouldn't you want to remember the meaning? So Sandy, yes, that Sandy says it's amazing to know the shades. Yes, Sandy, this was something that really worked for me in a lot of cases, and I thought it would be a very nice idea to share with all of you. So we're going to see how this will impact our questions. We have a lot more coming up in the session, and we're going to see how this knowledge is going to impact our understanding. All right. So great with that. Let me now begin the process. So guys, get ready. I'm now going to take you through the process. Before we talk about the answer choices straight away, I'm going to take you through the process of how to identify the para summaries. Okay. Thank you, Abhinash. He says it's a really effective technique. So Vaibhav says author can evaluate and question simultaneously. True, Vaibhav. That's an interesting question. Uh, Obviously, the author can evaluate and question, but the ultimate intent will be only one, either to question after evaluation or to evaluate after questioning. So the motive cannot be dual unless and until it is figured like that in the answer choice also. So you've got to be careful there, Vaibhav. That's an interesting question that you brought up. Okay, good. So I'm going to lot of, as I said earlier, that a lot of people tell you, okay, go and make a para summary. I'm going to show you literally sentence by sentence how to make that para summary. So Sandy is asking, is group 1 for general questions and other groups for detailed questions? These words are primarily used in primary motive questions, but they can also be used in general questions, Sandy. So the impact is still the same. So it is still helpful. Even in questions which are not asking about the primary motive, these questions could still be asked. And these words, it would make worth your while to know these words. All right. So let me begin the process now, guys. I want you guys to cooperate with me. I want you guys to really give me your undivided attention. Ashwin has asked a very interesting question, guys. So let me just answer this and then we'll move to that. Are these groups depending on tone of the author and passage? To a large extent, Ashwin, the author's tone, the author's attitude is equal to the primary motive of the passage. So yes, I would say the tone is also important. And we are going to weave that into our discussion today, Ashwin. Thank you for that. Here comes our discussion. So I would request you guys to hold off your questions while I'm discussing the passage, and then you can ask me your questions. All right. So here goes. Now, this is how we are going to derive the para summary. Pay close attention to see how I'm doing it. Okay, I'm going to read sentence by sentence and show you how the summary can be drawn. So let's get started. The fields of antebellum, political history and women's history. Now that's a long phrase here. You should shorten it. So we're talking about certain fields of a certain period. This is a pre-Civil War period. Okay. So the which two fields are we talking about? We're talking about political history, and we're talking about women's history. All right. Use separate sources and focus on separate issues. Now, I always take a little bit of time for the first sentence so that I can bite my teeth into the topic. I straight away know what the topic is all about. So I definitely take into account in my summary the intention of the first statement. So clearly here, I would summarize the first statement as sources and focus of pre-Civil War political history and women history are different. The source of the history is different. The focus, the intention of the history is different. Okay, let's read forward. Political historians examining sources such as voting records. Okay, so here now the author is expanding on what kind of sources the political historians look at. And I can kind of pre-think here a little bit that, okay, so perhaps the author is going to talk about the different sources used and the author is going to talk about the different focuses. All right, so that's there in my mind and I'm relating back the meaning of each sentence with the previous sentence. So this is what we call involved and evolved reading. I'm getting involved in the author's way of thinking. All right, so political historians source such as voting records. So look at the kind of sources: voting records, newspapers, politicians' writings. These are all kind of, public documents, I would say. All right. So political historians focus on these public documents. That is how I've shortened it in my mind. They focus on the emergence. Okay, what do they focus? In the 1840s. So this 1840s is probably the antebellum pre-Civil War era. This is what we are talking about. We can relate. So these people, the political historians, they focus on the emergence of a political nation. All right. And so it continues, since women were neither voters nor politicians. So here the word since is important for me because it tells me the reason behind something. They receive little discussion. So who is this they? They here would refer to women. Okay. Since we are talking about the women being the head of this sentence. So all in all, this sentence means political historians sources, political historians source public docs and they focus on politics. But they don't focus on women, as women were apolitical, like they were not into politics as such. Okay, let me ask all of you a question right away. Can you see how I am deriving the para summary by reading each and every sentence and relating them to each other? Can you see this? I'm just going to bring up a poll, guys, so you can answer there. Can you see? Can you follow how I am involving myself and reading and drawing the summary? You've got to do this mentally. You've got to train yourself to do this. Can you see this? Are you able to follow? Great. I can see 100% on that. So Ketan, just break down your pieces, sentence pieces, okay? I'm going a little fast, perhaps I'll slow down a bit. So Elena and some of the others who were saying that history is not their cup of tea, I hope you guys are able to see how we can understand this, okay? I'm going to do a little bit of recap here quickly so that you follow this. So once again, the first sentence is telling us that political history and women's history uses separate sources and they focus on different things. Political historians, they source public documents. Okay, we are not going to talk about what are those documents, and they focus on politics. So the source is public docs and the focus is politics, but not women. All right, that's the crux of this sentence. Let's move forward. Women's historians. Okay, now we are talking about the second field. Meanwhile. So clearly, meanwhile is again for me a transition word. It tells me we're going to talk about the opposites, like saying on the other hand. So women's historians have shown little interest in the subject of party politics. So unlike the political historians, women's historians, they don't have any interest in politics. Okay. Instead, all right. Instead, what do they have interest in? Let's see. They draw on personal papers. So see how the political historians draw on public papers and how the women's historians draw on personal papers. After that, this entire thing, if you look at this entire thing, I'm going to read that. All this is about the different kinds of personal papers. What are these personal papers? Legal records such as wills and records of female associations. So records of wills, records of female associations, female groups, to illuminate women's domestic lives. So these are associations that deal with domestic lives of women, their moral reform activities, and the emergence of women's rights movements. So all these personal papers have got nothing to do with politics and everything to do with the personal lives, the domestic lives of women. All right. So I can kind of bring out the crux of this sentence. Women's historians source personal documents and they focus on women's personal movements, but not on politics. All right. Is this clear, guys? Absolutely. Is this clear? Is this clear, guys? So Kumar has raised very valid concern. The process is helpful, but it might take more time to solve a passage. Okay. Uh, Sachin, think like this, and I'm going to discuss this once and for all. It might look time consuming, okay? That is because I am vocalizing it aloud to you. But remember, you will be reading it to yourself. You will be taking much less time. Number one. Number two, tell me, does this not happen with you? You read the passage, you read it in record time, you go to the question, you look at the choices, again, you go back to the passage, you reread some portions, and then you again come back to the question and you go through the choices again. You feel that you're taking less time by reading the passage quickly. But in the process, you're actually taking the same time and getting a lower accuracy. Can you see that, Sachin? Can all of you see that? It happens to you, right? How many of you find yourselves doing this? Passage to question, question to passage, passage to question, question to passage. How many of you do that? I've put up a poll there, so almost all of you do that. So see, it ultimately takes the same time, but what I'm going to show you is really going to reduce time eventually, and the accuracy will be 100%. That's what we are aiming for. Okay, so thank you, Ashwin. I'll keep that in mind. Thank you. All right, so I got this 100% on the poll almost. All right, let me move ahead. Now, I want you guys to give me a single line summary of this paragraph. Can you do that for me in the chat box? Can you do that for me in the chat box? A single line summary of this paragraph based on how we have read in the involved and evolved manner. Elena and all the others who are not able to understand history, is it clear to you? It's very simple, right? Now, you can give me a single line summary in the chat boxes. Siddharth, you don't have to write para summaries down. You just keep it in mind, that's enough. Okay? I'm just showing it to you, so I'm writing it. But you just need to do it in your mind. And you need to train yourself to do it. So Jagannath says, difference between political history and women's history. Jagannath, you have to be a little more specific as to what is the difference. Ashwin, it is not between political historians and women historians, or if you want to put it that way, what is it versus what is it between these two types of historians? Kautilya says sometimes it makes sense to note down points, but sometimes it is easy to jot down points. Kautilya, you can do either of them, okay, whichever works. For very complicated passages, you might need to write down. For less complicated passages, just go with the flow. Kumar says, talks about differences in the scope and focus of political history and women's history. Let me see. Shivam says, women's history source from personal papers and focus on women's life, whereas, okay, that's a better summary, Shivam. Good, because we need to understand what is the difference. Okay, Riddhi says source and focus is different. Venkatesh is analyzing source and focus of political history and women's history. Venkatesh, I would like to correct you there. If you see, they have mentioned the source, but they are not analyzing the sources. They're not going into an in-depth study of the sources. So the usage of the word analyzing is not quite correct. I'm going to bring up my one-line summary, and I want you guys to notice how it is different. Okay? Notice the difference. I would have summarized this paragraph as both political historians and women's historians leave out one aspect of history while focusing exclusively on another. What is the result? Very little is written about women's political engagement. How many of y'all agree that this is a better summary? I want you guys to see your passages in this way. I want you to look at it in this way. I want you to open your minds when you're reading the passages so that you are bang on the target. How many of y'all can see where you have missed out? A lot of questions there, but you get my drift, right? So see that it's not just about difference between political historians and women historians. It is also about how one aspect is left out in each case. So Lipsia, I'll repeat that. The idea was that most of you gave me a single line summary saying that the political history and women's history, or the political historians and women's historians are focusing on different things. That we already know. After reading the passage, what can we come up with? Okay. So think like this, Riddhi. That's a good question you're asking. think like this. Remember, we don't know whether there's going to be a primary motive question. So right from the outset, you have to start thinking like that. All right. Motive of the author. What is the author saying? So if you read this paragraph, what you get to understand is, okay, political historians focus on different things. What is that different thing? Political historians focus on politics. Women's historians focus on women's personal issues. And political historians leave out women's political involvement. See this? Since women were neither voters or politicians, they receive little discussion. And similarly, these women's historians are not interested in politics, so they do not talk about women and politics. What happens is, what about women and political involvement? Nothing gets written about that. Is this clear? Riddhi, Lipsa? Lipsa, it's written also. If you can see the screen, the one-line summary is written also. That both kinds of historians, they leave out one aspect and focus only on the other. As a result, very little gets written about women's political engagement. One doesn't write about women, the other doesn't write about politics, therefore nothing written about women's political political involvement. All right. So did you guys, okay, let me just ask this question. I'm so inquisitive now. Did you guys enjoy this? Did you guys enjoy this? So Ketan, political engagement may have been a different way. You can simply write that nothing was written about women in politics. That's a different way of writing political engagement. All right. Nothing was written about women in politics. Okay. Remember, the women's historians only spoke about women's personal life, nothing about whether they were involved or not involved in politics. All right. So great. I can see I've got 100% on the polls. So okay, Riddhi, thank you. Abhinash, thank you. Let me move to the second paragraph, because I want you guys to focus on the method that will make your life easy. Any kind of question you'll be able to answer. Let's move to the second paragraph quickly. Now, I'm sure this paragraph a lot of you struggled with because a lot of information here. Follow, I'm going to go a little slow, guys, so bear with me, because this is going to help you in all the other passages that you're going to solve henceforth. We start with a however right away. And when you have a however right at the beginning of a paragraph, you know that some sort of a contrast is being drawn with probably the last sentence of the paragraph to be very specific. Okay. So clearly, we need to recall the last sentence here. The last sentence was that, in fact, the idea from the last sentence was that neither political historians nor women's historians really talk much about women in politics. All right. Okay. They don't. However, so, but most historians, so that means we're talking about the majority, overall coverage. Okay. Most historians have underestimated the extent. Now, what do we mean by underestimated? It means majority of the historians have kind of have written about some of these women and politics, but they have not properly drawn an estimate. They have kind of downplayed. All right. So have underestimated the extent, that means how much, and significance means importance. Okay. So what have they underestimated? The extent and significance of what? Women's political allegiance. Even if you don't know what it means loyalty, but basically let's just say something, women's political something in the antebellum period. So this first sentence is the author's opinion. Now, remember this. When you read a passage, always note what is the author's personal opinion, because remember, the main idea is the author's motive. So all the personal, the author's opinion, the sentences that tell you about the author's opinion are going to help you build that primary motive of the passage. So pay attention. So here the author believes majority of the historians have downplayed, underestimated, not given enough importance to women's role in politics. All right. Clear so far? You can just answer me in the chat, guys. Is it clear so far? I'm going a little slow because a lot of you found this difficult. Are we clear how we have identified this? Okay, great. I've got the answers from all of you. So let me continue. All right, let's read further. For example, now the moment you have this example, do one thing. A lot of these questions that you get now, why has this example been quoted here? Why does the author give the example here? So just keep that in mind. When you have to answer such questions, you have to remember the context. So the context here is most historians have underestimated the importance of women in politics in the antebellum period. So the example is being given to show how the historians have underestimated. That can be done by showing the actual involvement of women, right? So let's read on. In the presidential election campaign of the 1840s, the Virginia Whig Party, so we have the name of one party, okay, strove to win the allegiance of Virginia's women by inviting them to rallies and speeches. So the example given here is how women were involved in the presidential election campaigns of 1840s. In other words, how women were involved in politics at that time. Okay, remember the idea is to prove that most historians did not properly draw up the understand the role women played. So here they're giving you the example the women played the kind of role the women played. So the Whig Party, they tried to win the loyalty of Virginia's women by inviting them to rallies and speeches. Okay, all right. So women were invited to rallies and speeches, political rallies and speeches. All right, let's move forward. According to Whig propaganda, so now whatever the Whig propaganda means Whig party's beliefs. Women who turned out at the party's rallies. So we are talking about the women who came to the party's rallies. What did they do? One, they gathered information that enabled them to mold party loyal families. So these women, they came to the rallies, they gathered information about that party, they went home and they influenced their families to become loyal to that party. This is what you have to understand from this. Okay, this is one thing that these women do. These women remind, now here your SC skills will come into being. These women who came to the party's rallies reminded men of moral values. You know, these women reminded men that they had families at home and they had to look after the families on the whole. And as a political party, they had to look after their constituency and the families in the constituency. And I'm kind of thinking ahead. And conferred. So the third thing these women did was they conferred moral standing on the party. So Whig propaganda, according to the Whig party's belief, women did these things for the party when these women came to the party's rallies. All right. So clearly here, the example is being given to support the author's opinion that historians have downplayed the women's role by showing how women played a big role in politics. They showed that women would do these things for the party. Can you see this? How I am relating back. Sorry for asking you these questions at every juncture, but the main purpose of this session is to help you. Can you see how I am reading in an involved and evolved manner? Can you see how I am reading in an involved and evolved manner and literally showing you how to draw summaries from sentences? Can you see this? This is something that you can really emulate. You can really do it on your own. Great. All right. So let me end the poll. All of you have found that helpful. Okay. Let's read on. Virginia Democrats in response. So probably we are not talking about something else, some other party, probably. What did they do in response? In response means in response to what? In response to what the Whig party was doing, probably. Okay. They began to make similar appeals to women as well. So these Democrat party also started asking women to come to their rallies. Great. So another addition to that example to show that women really played a significant role, and that is why the author is saying that historians have underestimated that role. By the mid 1850s, the inclusion of women in the rituals of party politics had become commonplace. That means women were involved to a large extent and they were important, these two things. Okay. So this example is showing how most historians were actually underestimating the women's role. All right. So let's read on. The ideology that justified such inclusion. So the ideology that kind of agreed that yes, women should be included in party politics, had been assimilated by the Democrats. What do you think assimilated by Democrats might mean, given the understanding? What do you mean by assimilated by the Democrats? What do you think it might mean, even if you don't know the meaning of the word assimilated? What can it mean? The context is king, guys. It had been assimilated by the Democrats. What can it mean, max to max? Accepted. Very good, Soumya. It means it was accepted. We already know that they had started inviting women. We already know that they had responded by doing this, and we already know it has become commonplace. Yes, followed, cemented, confirmed, supported. Very good, very good. Stan, Kautilya, Venkatesh, Shruti, Michael. Good, Sandy. So that's good to see you are able to follow what we're trying. Now, can you give me a single line summary of this paragraph? Can you give me a single line summary? In fact, I want you guys to give me a single line summary of this paragraph. Sorry, guys, let me have just a gulp of water while you type your summaries. So Sachin says, okay, if mastered this approach, there could be no other better approach. Sachin, you will be able to master it. When I started off, I also found it, I used to think, will this work? But now when I solve it, my maximum time goes in reading the passage. But when I'm answering the question, per question, it hardly takes me 40 seconds, 45 seconds. I know straight away that the choice is not correct because I have understood the passage so well. All right. So Sam says this approach is great, but Sam, do not think about time when you're learning something. Trust me on this. You can compare it. Okay, guys, here is a homework for you, all of you. Okay. Take up two passages of similar difficulty level and same number of questions. Okay. Solve the two passages, one by using this approach, one by using your approach. See how much time it takes and what kind of accuracy you get. So that will be a proof for you that this approach works. Okay, let me see your summaries. You have given me the summary. So Lipsa says, author proving that women were involved in party politics. Um, okay. To whom is the author proving? I mean, what is the main point? Is it that the author is proving, or is it that the author is trying to say that historians were not doing something? Ashwin says, women active involvement in political movement and how historians underestimated. Very good, Ashwin. Very good. Sandy says, illustrating with an example the role women played in politics and how historians have downplayed their role. Wonderful, Sandy. Usman says, I always confuse between two options and end up marking the wrong choice. Today we are going to eliminate that, Usman, hopefully. Aarti says in 1850s, women were very much involved in politics. Yes, Aarti, that is half the summary. They were involved, but the historians did not give them due credit. Riddhi says women played a big role in politics, an example to support this. Riddhi, apart from that, the fact that women played a big role, you have to take into account the author's opinion, that the author believes the historians did not give them, the women, their due. Soumya, same thing. The part about historians not giving their due is very important. Okay. So Himani, the historians left out how women were involved in politics. Very good, Himani. That's a better way of putting it. Venkatesh says describing the indirect role of women in politics, which is accepted by all, but underplayed by the historians, is what I would say. So let me continue the summary here. Although, see how I have encapsulated the first sentence with the example. If you see, the major part of this paragraph is the example only. Although women played an important role in politics in the antebellum period, most historians have downplayed that role. And that is that. Now comes the most interesting part. I'm going to put these two para summaries together here. Okay. So what do I have from the first paragraph? In the antebellum period, both the types of historians left out one aspect of history while focusing exclusively on another. And the result was very little was written about how women were involved in politics. In the second paragraph, we have the author's opinion that although women played an important role in politics in the antebellum period, most historians downplay that role. So if we put these two together, can you give me a main point summary, guys, in the chat box? Can you give me a main point? Converge these two para summaries and join these two and come up with a single line summary. Try this, guys. It's really the most effective method because think about it, you'll be able to answer any question on this passage. So I want you guys to come up with a single line main point summary. In our course, each and every passage has been discussed like this. Each and every passage we have given you the same analysis, the summarization, the main point summarization. You're going to get a lot of practice there. If you really want to improve your RC, please follow the involved and evolved reading method. Okay, so let me see. I'm excited to see your single line summaries. Vaibhav says historians overlooked women's importance in prehistoric politics. Vaibhav, very good, except that it is not prehistoric politics, it is antebellum politics. Antebellum here would mean pre-war, okay? Pre-civil war they have given in the bracket. So very good, Vaibhav. What about the others? All right, Ashwin says role of women in political movement involvement as per historians. So Ashwin, again, what was the role as per the historians? Was it big? Was it small? And again, the intention of the author is not to tell you the role. The intention of the author is to tell you how that role was not given due importance. Okay. Kautilya says, discuss the approach of two types of historians in describing role of women. Again, see, Kautilya, think carefully. Author's opinion is going to be your main point, right? What the author wants to say. And the author wants to say that majority of the historians did not give due credit to the women. So that has to be a part of the main summary. Ketan says, since the role of women was downplayed, therefore very little is written about women's. Yes, Ketan, that's a good way of putting it. Don't worry, Vaibhav, that happens. It happens with me a lot of time. Sandy says, in antebellum period, women played a significant role in spite the ignorance by. Okay, so I get it, Sandy. In spite the fact that the historians ignored that role. Wonderful. Ravi says, impact of women involvement ignored by historians. Very good. Shivam says, established that historians were wrong in downplaying the women's role. Yes, good. Jatin says, though women played important role, the historians didn't focus. Very good. So see, almost all of you are able to put it together. And I'm sure now you will agree with me that this is the only method which would help you like this. How many of y'all really thought about this when you solved the question on your own? Let me just, how many of y'all thought about this on your own? And be honest, guys. Were you able to think like this when you read the passage your way? Were you, let me reset that question. Were you able to think like this when you solved the passage on your own? How many of y'all were able to think like this? Okay, and be honest about it. There's no harm in admitting that this is something new to you. So, 33% of you say you were able to think like this. Good. That percentage is growing smaller. More than 70% of you say you were not able to think like this. So, guys, from today onwards, when you solve passages, I want you to broaden your ideas. I want you to think what the author is trying to say. Here, you can see that the idea is not that women were not given. Women's involvement in politics was not written about. The main intention of the author is to tell you historians did not properly draw up the estimate of women's role. That's the main motive. After telling you what was the difference between the focus and the sources. Okay. So, okay. Let me now bring up. So Kumar says on solving his own, he couldn't relate. Good, Kumar. I'm sure a lot of you feel that, and this is really helpful. I'm not saying this because this is the way I do it, but this is really helpful. So here comes the main point. Okay. In the antebellum period, different historians have focused differently on women's political involvement. So this is the crux of the first paragraph. But by and large means majority of them, they have downplayed that role. Which role? Women's role in politics. Okay. So with that main point, let us now go to answering the first question. Here is the first question. All right. And if I remember correctly, so let me just refer to my data here. 8% of you marked A. In fact, let me do something. Let me do what I love doing. I'm going to bring up the poll again for the first question, guys. And now, if you want, you can change your answers after the new understanding. I would like to compare, just refreshing your memory, that last time you marked 8% of you marked A, 60% of you marked B, 24% of you marked C, and 4% each marked D and E. So if you want, you can change your answers in light of the new understanding if you want. I'll give you just 1 minute to go through the choices, guys. Okay, I'm going to mute myself. Just go through the choices once again. All right, guys, I am now going to end the poll. All right. So I can see a significant difference here. Now I'm just going to read out the difference. All right. So nobody has marked choice A compared to 8% earlier. Not a single person. Earlier B was 60%. Now we have just 22%. Earlier C was 24%, and now I have 72% going for C. And that is enough to show how following the involved and evolved approach helps to identify the main point, okay? And how easy it becomes. You hardly took a minute to decide again. D was 4%, that's almost the same, and nobody is going for E anymore. So let me now quickly discuss this and be done over with. Then we're going to start our next paragraph, just next passage, just hold on to that. So the word used here is examine the tactics. Now remember, examine means to closely analyze the pros and cons, all the various aspects, and come up with a conclusion. So the word examine is, I would say, the author is trying to come up with his own opinion. So all right, so far we can stay with the word maybe. But is he examining the tactics of antebellum political parties? Okay, no, that's not the purpose. In fact, the only part where we talk about the tactics of political parties with regard to women is in the second paragraph, and just through that example. So the example is never the main point, right? And that is why this is these are the two ways we eliminate answer choices, guys. Incorrect answer choices on RC questions. We are also going to quickly discuss that. Limited scope means you are covering only one portion of the passage. You're not covering the entire portion. All right. So here, if you see tactics of antebellum political parties with regard to women, this part is only there in the example. So that is limited scope. The choice is not covering the scope of the entire passage. Similarly, the author does not examine the tactics. He just mentions the tactics. Okay, he does not go in depth into the tactics. So using the word examine is also incorrect, and therefore this choice is incorrect. So one of the common ways of bringing up an incorrect choice is to use a choice which is limited in scope. All right, can you see that? So now you know that limited scope is one very common way of introducing an incorrect choice. Let's look at B, which was very popular earlier on, but now only 22% have gone with it, and rightly so. Is the motive of the author to prove the effect of women's involvement? I'll ask this question with a poll, guys. Let me reset. Is the author trying to prove the effect of women's involvement? Where has he mentioned? Is he trying to prove it? He's just mentioned it as an example to support that historians underestimated the role. Is the author trying to prove the effect? Think about that. Ashwin, I will answer your question in a moment. Is the author trying to prove the, so understand the motive of the entire passage. The motive of the author here is to show how historians have underestimated the extent. The entire second paragraph is dedicated towards that. The first paragraph is dedicated also towards that, showing how certain historians have neglected women's involvement in politics. So if you put the two together, the idea is the author is trying to point out something missing in the historian's understanding of women's involvement in politics. The major motive is not to establish the effect of women's involvement. Okay, that the author is mentioning just in the example, and the motive is not to prove the effect. What effect did women's involvement in politics have? That they were able to mold party loyal families, correct? That was the effect. That they were able to remind men of moral values, correct? They were able to bring moral standing. So this is one sentence in the entire passage, okay, that is talking about the effect of women's involvement. But is the author trying to prove this one sentence? I'll ask again, is the author, the motive of the passage, just to prove this one sentence, guys? Is the motive to prove that one sentence, what impact women had? No. And that is where this choice is incorrect. Okay. We use the word, so confusing word, establish is the wrong word. It's not trying to prove the effect. Distortion is a typical way of using familiar ideas from the passage, guys, and putting it in the answer choice to confuse you. Because the idea is familiar, you believe it could be quite possibly the answer choice. So, for example, a lot of you got misled by reading that familiar word, effect of women's involvement in politics in the antebellum period, and that you thought was the main idea, but then it's distorted. The idea is not to present the effect of women. The idea is to present that women were involved, but they were not given the due importance. So that's distortion. So these are three of the major ways an incorrect answer choice is built. We call it the confusing word, limited scope, distortion, and half truth is how we put it. All right. And the correct, so we come to C now. Present a deficiency in the study of a particular historical period. Now, clearly, the word deficiency, remember, we were talking about how the main idea has to be very precise. So very precisely, they're talking about a deficiency. What does this deficiency refer to? That the majority of the historians have downplayed the role of women in politics. All right. And therefore, we can keep C on hold. I would have kept C on hold when I was going through the answer choices. Let's move to D. Discuss the ideologies of opposing antebellum political parties. Again, this is limited in scope. The only part where the author discusses the ideologies of two political parties is in the second paragraph through that example, but that's not the main motive. So we say this is limited in scope. It doesn't cover the scope of the passage, and therefore it cannot be the primary purpose of the passage. Okay. Nobody marked E. So again, the idea was not to analyze the methodology. And I'm sure those of you who had marked that earlier realized that this was too limited in scope. The only part where the author analyzes the methodology is in the first half, but that's not the main motive. And therefore, the answer is C. So from 24% of you going for C before the passage analysis, 72% of you went for C after the analysis. Let's all clap hands for ourselves when we have remarked that. So how was that, guys? Did you enjoy this? Did you enjoy this process? Never mind about time consuming and stuff. Did you enjoy this process? It's so enlightening, right? Great. I got 100% on that. Thank you so much, guys. So let me look at any questions if I have here. Ashwin, is your question answered? So Ashwin is asking an interesting question here. You're welcome, Asha. You're welcome, all of you. Soumya, Sachin, Riddhi. Um, okay, Michael, I will repeat why E is incorrect. So if you see, what does E say? Analyze the methodology. Number one, the author doesn't really give in-depth information about the various methods. He just says the sources are different and the focus is different. Okay. And this portion is mentioned only in the first paragraph. But why has the author mentioned the different methodologies? In order to tell you that neither of these methodologies properly understands the role of women. And that is why he is incorrect. Is that clear, Abdullah? Okay. So, Ashwin, so Ashwin is asking, can we also interpret C as deficiency because political ministers talk about the individual? Yes, that is a deficiency. That is also part of that deficiency, Ashwin. Absolutely. Okay. So I guess that solves all your queries. And now I'm going to take up the next question where I'll show you. So Kautilya always Kautilya is asking a very interesting question. When we should not dive into examples. Kautilya, remember, an example by itself cannot be the main motive. You always need to understand why that example is given. And for that, read a little bit before the example and read a little bit after the example to cement it together. All right. Okay. So I would say Sachin is asking a very interesting question again here. What should be the ideal time to solve short and long passages? Um, so Sachin, I would not say it's about the short and long passages. I mean, to be very honest, you won't know how many questions are there. So I would say that this kind of passage, for example, shouldn't take you more than about. I'm talking about the reading time because the question answering time you won't know how many questions are there. So the reading time, I would say, this kind of passage should not take you more than about 2 minutes max. And trust me, 2.5 minutes, you will be able to read it with this understanding. That's a promise. Even if you take 3 minutes, consider this. Even if you take 3 minutes on reading the passage, you would hardly take a minute to solve both those questions, or maybe a minute and a half. So in 4 minute 15 seconds, you will actually be able to solve the passage correctly. Okay. All right. So let me go to the next question and show you how understanding the central idea also helps in identifying the answers on most of the other questions as well, which are based on central idea. Again, I'm going to give you a chance to remark this. So let me bring up the poll. Give me a moment. Here's the poll. Take a minute. You can change your answers if you want. Just to refresh your memory, earlier 8% of you marked A, 8% of you marked B, 34% each for C and D, and 13% for E. So if you want, you can reconsider your answers. I'll give you about another 40 seconds. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now, guys. All right, so let me see the new answering. None are going for A as compared to 8% earlier. 11% go for B as compared to 8% earlier. 55% of you are now for C as compared to 34% earlier. 22% with D as compared to 34% earlier, and 11% for E as compared to 30%, 13% earlier. So let me bring up, I would ask you to hold on to your questions. I'm going to discuss all the choices, so don't worry. Let's see what the question is. The author of the passage would be most likely to agree. So we are going to rely on the author's opinion. With which of the following statements regarding most historians? Okay. So we have to identify a choice, okay, which tells us what the author thinks about most historians. Which historians? Here, this most historians. They have underestimated the extent of women's political allegiance in the antebellum period. Or in other words, if you look at the central idea, most historians, okay, have downplayed the role of women. This is what we have to, if we have understood this, we will be able to choose the correct answer. Our correct answer should be that they means the historians, the they over here, guys, each of this, okay, is the historians. All right, can you see that? Because that's the answer. So that's how we are going to read. The most historians have failed to adequately contrast. Okay, were they trying to contrast the differing roles that women played? No. So clearly this is incorrect because of that word contrast. All right, and clearly this is not the answer. None of you have chosen A. Good. B, most historians have failed to see that political propaganda advocating women's political involvement did not reflect the reality of women's actual roles. But if you go back to the passage, they have mentioned only the Whig propaganda, remember? Okay. So it is not that the author is trying to tell you that historians have failed to see the Whig propaganda. All right, that's not the idea. That the author is giving as an example. But by and all, when he talks about most historians, what he wants to say that they have underestimated. See, if you say failed to see, it means they have not seen at all. Okay. But if you say underestimated, it means they have seen, but they have not fully seen. So B is also incorrect. Some of you have marked B. Can you see why B is incorrect, guys? Let me bring up the poll. Can you see why B is incorrect? The author doesn't say that they have failed to understand. The author says they have underestimated, which means they have understood, but they have not understood completely. Great. All of you can see that. So let me move to my next. They have incorrectly assumed that women's party loyalty played a small role. So clearly here we have that these most historians have incorrectly assumed, means they have been incorrect about their assumption, incorrect about their estimate, that what have they been incorrect about? That women's party loyalty played a small role. So they have incorrectly thought that women played a small role. That means they have underestimated the role. And that is why C should be correct. So I'm going to keep C. All right. Again, from a 34%, 55% went to C. Let's see D. They have misinterpreted description. Would you say underestimate and misinterpret is the same thing, guys? Let me ask this question to all of you. Would you say misinterpret and underestimate is the same thing? Because is it the same thing? Misinterpret is like you have not understood it correctly. You have understood something different. And underestimate is you have understood, but you have not understood fully. Clear. So that is why. Absolutely. No, they're not the same. And therefore, this choice is also incorrect, guys. Okay. Moreover, again, here, see, they are using words from the familiar words. Misinterpreted description of women's involvement in party politics in records of female association and women's personal documents. This is completely. E, they have, so 22% of you chose D, and I hope you can see why it is incorrect. 11% of you have marked E. They have overlooked the role. They have not overlooked the role. They have not completely missed out the role. They have underestimated the role, and therefore E is incorrect. Okay, so C was, so can you see how if you get the main idea, you will be able to get this answer correct also. So therefore, it is very important to understand the primary motive of the passage. So Ashwin is asking, can we eliminate inference answer options if they have extreme words? Well, always make sure that you read the extreme word in an inclusive manner. Just by looking at the extreme word, don't eliminate the choice. Read the full choice, understand what it is saying. It is quite possible they are eliminating the extreme word also. So don't just look at the word and eliminate, okay? Read the full thing. All right, guys, so that brings us to the end of this question. I want you to go to the next passage. I'm going to give you another 4 minutes to solve that. No, in fact, I'm going to give you just 3 minutes because it's one paragraph. You might be wondering that what if we have a single paragraph and we have to kind of summarize that. All right. Aarti is asking, there can be confusion between misinterpret and incorrectly assume. Ideally not, Aarti, but yes, I mean, somebody might think that incorrect assumption is like misunderstanding, but uh, in the context of the passage, incorrectly assume means incorrectly assume what? Incorrectly assume that the role was small, which means they have assumed that the role was small, and that is incorrect. So it's not exactly misinterpretation. When you misinterpret something, it means you have drawn a different interpretation, not a lower or higher interpretation. Okay, so the confusion should not be there, but in this case, it was. So in future you will be careful about it. So guys, start with your next passage, the second passage with a single paragraph. I'll show you how to draw the summary of that single paragraph also, and we'll be quick about it this time. Go ahead, I'm going to mute myself. There's just one question there, so be quick about it. I'm going to give now the 40 seconds, guys. So Midha, the question is in the PDF. There's a PDF that I'm sharing. Okay, so passage 2, it has got a single question on that. Do you have the PDF, Midhat? Okay, guys, I'm going to end the poll now. So quickly mark your answers. I gave you a little more time to read the passage because although there's just one question, because to be very fair, you'll still take that time to read the passage. So I've just taken that one question. Cordelia, you can't see the PDF. Can the others, can you guys still see the PDF? I'll just stop sharing and share again. It's sharing actually, PDF. Cordelia. So go to files, go to your file section. I think you can see it there. Because the others, I think some of the others, guys, can you see the PDF? You guys have downloaded the PDF, right? Cordelia, have you got the PDF now? Yeah, others can see it. So, Kautilya, just go to the, just go to the panel which is there next to your chat. You have the files written down. Just click on that. From there, you can download the PDF. All right. Okay, I'm going to start my discussion on this passage. I'll be a little quick, guys, because in the interest of time, since you are now familiar with the process, all right. So I'll be a little quick so that we can put in that third passage also. All right, here goes my. Just pay close attention. Although many lines, so when I get a whole chunk of a passage, what I do usually is, I've already done that in this case for you, I usually kind of summarize after 2 3 lines. All right, that is what exactly I was doing in the previous passage also. So let's see. Although many lines of evidence indicate, so right away I have an although, so I'm going to kind of, although evidence indicates, so that's how I will read. Okay, although evidence tells us that birds evolved from some dinosaurs, let's call it TD, theropod dinosaurs. Okay, so although there is evidence that tells us that birds came from TD, some scientists remain unconvinced. All right, so one conclusion here is, evidence is there to suggest that birds came from TD, but some scientists disagree. They argue that TD appeared too late. So TD came too late to have given rise to birds. All right. So clearly, perhaps the time TD came and the first bird came, must have been different. Noting that Archaeopteryx lithographica, let's call it AL, the oldest known bird, appears in the fossil record about 150 million years ago. So 150 million years ago, the oldest known bird appeared, whereas the fossil of various non-avian, that means non-flying, Maniraptor theropods, the closest known relatives of birds, date only to about 115 million years ago. In a nutshell, the reason for disagreement is TD came much later, as suggested by the fossil of some oldest known bird AL. Basic thing is this. All right, clear on this? Can you guys see how I have simplified the stuff? And this is what I want you to. Okay, I haven't ended the poll. Let me end the poll for the previous question. Just a minute, and let me note down the data for that poll. I'm also going to tell you guys before I move on. So I've got 13% for A, 8% for B, 13% for C, 30% for D, and 34% for E. All right, that's divided kind of thing. All right, let me resume. So can you guys see how I have simplified stuff? I want you to do this when you are reading. Can you see how I have simplified it? Because this is going to help you. Remove all the adjectives, remove all the unnecessary clutter, and understand the crux. And then keep it in your mind and then read forward. Great. So everybody's got that. Let me read forward. Okay. The moment I come across a but, that is where I kind of again start recapitulating. So, but investigators have now uncovered bones. Now, who is saying this? Clearly, the author is saying, everything is in the author's words. All right. This was the third party argument. All right. But now we have the author's argument. Investigators have now uncovered bones that belong to non-avian maniraptors dating to the same time as that AL, the oldest bird. All right. So right now, what do we have? Bones of the theropod dinosaurs dating to the same time of earliest known bird have been found. What does that mean? Let's see. Author says the absence of such fossils. So he says, in any case, failure to find fossils of a predicted kind does not rule out their existence. So what the author here is trying to say is, just because we did not have the fossils till now does not mean that the fossil does not exist. So can you see how the author is going against what the investigators have found out? Okay. In a way, he's also trying to say that whatever the scientists say about not believing the descent of birds from theropod dinosaurs, he's kind of going against that, it seems. Let's read on. Skeptics also argue. Now, clearly the skeptics are, which skeptics? Some scientists who remain unconvinced. These are the skeptics. All right. that the fused clavicles, or whatever it is, the wishbone, something, some feature of birds differ from the same feature of theropods. Okay, so here there is another reason given for disagreement. Certain features of TD differ from those of birds. Let's see what the author says. This objection was reasonable. So the author is saying this objection that their features are different was reasonable when only early theropod clavicles had been discovered. But fossilized theropod clavicles that look just like the wishbone of Archaeopteryx have now been unearthed. So the author is saying this objection that their features were different does not hold valid anymore because new evidence has been found. So the author is again going against the opinion of the scientists. Let's read on. Finally, some scientists argue. So again, we have, can you see this? We're talking about different types of scientists who disagree. Argue that the complex lungs of birds, so we have another feature of birds, could not have evolved from theropod lungs. All right, so here we have another reason for disagreement. Key, another feature of birds, that is lungs, could not have come from theropod lungs. Why? All right, that's not given us. An assertion that cannot be supported. Now again, who is saying this? The author. Or falsified at the moment because no records are preserved. So no evidence to confirm or falsify this belief. So all in all, what is the author doing throughout? Okay, at the beginning he mentions in general that this is so, and you know, although there is evidence, a lot of scientists are not convinced, and then one by one he goes on to take up bring up those evidence and tell that the scientists were probably wrong. So can you give me a one-line summary for this, guys, in the chat box? Can you give me a single line summary for this? It's very simple, actually. If you can see, I hope you were able to follow this paragraph very clearly. Well, yes, Jagannath. So see, you can see, right, that it becomes very simple to arrive to this. Absolutely, Lipsa. Very good. See, you were saying that you were struggling to identify the main point, but now you've done it so well. Refuting the scientist's observation. Elena says there were different critics about the existence of bird. But what is the main motive of the passage, Elena? What is the motive of the author? Just to tell the difference, or to say that those differences don't matter? Okay, so let me bring up the author rejects the various arguments offered by disbelieving scientists. All right. And that is so simple. If you really break down and read your sentence, you can see it's very simple. That the author, one by one, keeps rejecting the various arguments offered by the scientists who are unconvinced. Okay. So let's now move to the question itself quickly. Here is the question. The primary purpose of the passage is to do what now? Here is the summary of the passage. Compare the development of two hypotheses concerning evolutionary origin. Now, is the motive to compare? No. Although 13% of you have chosen it. Okay. Can you see, guys? So I'm just going to ask this question. Is the motive to compare? Is the motive to compare the different hypotheses, or is the motive to reject? Clearly to reject, right? To turn down. Absolutely. So there goes our first choice. Suggest revisions to the standard theory. Now, 8% of you chose this. Now, in the passage, does the author suggest what should be the revision made? First of all, it doesn't talk about any standard theory about the evolutionary history. Okay, he just says that it is believed, although there is evidence, some scientists don't believe that birds descended from theropods. And clearly, the idea is not to suggest revisions. So this choice is also, this is actually completely out of scope. All right. it is not within the scope of the passage because nowhere the author discusses revisions to the standard theory. 8% of you chose that, so I hope you can see where you went wrong. C, evaluate the usefulness of fossil evidence. Okay, so evaluate means to examine the ways in which the fossil evidence can or cannot be used in determining the evolutionary theory. Now this comes close, a lot of you have marked that, but remember the idea is not to evaluate, the idea is to turn down, to reject, to say no, whatever you are believing is not true. And therefore again you can see you can eliminate these choices based on the confusing word, guys. All right, the idea is not to identify the validity of the fossils, the idea is to tell the scientists that they are not quite right, whether there is fossil or whether there is no fossil. So those of you who marked C as the answer choice, my question is to those of you who marked C, can you see why it is incorrect? Can you see why it is incorrect? Thank you. That's 100% there. Let's move on with our discussion. Challenge the theory that birds evolved from ground-dwelling theropod dinosaurs. The word challenge. Does the author question the theory? The author, see, you understand very clearly. In fact, here you have to understand what you have misunderstood. It's given that there are many lines of evidence to indicate birds evolved from this, but some scientists don't believe it. And the author tries to cross out these scientists. So what does it mean? That the author believes in this? Author believes in this, right? Therefore, we cannot say that the author is challenging the theory. Can you see this? Because I've got 30% of you who marked this. I've got 30% of you who marked this as the correct answer. Let me just ask this question. Those of you who marked D, can you see why it is incorrect? Okay, author actually believes in the theory, and here the word challenge is so incorrectly used. So that is the importance of that, understanding the confusing word. You need to give emphasis on those words and eliminate choices. All right, I've got a 50% yes and no, so I'm going to discuss this again. All right, pay attention, everybody, please. See, right at the look at the first sentence of the passage. Although evidence indicates that birds evolved from ground-dwelling theropod dinosaurs, some scientists remain unconvinced. Okay, so the scientists don't believe in this, and the author is saying that the scientists are wrong. So ultimately, the author believes in this. Yes. If the author believes in the theory, can the author challenge the theory? What does the word challenge mean? Challenge means to question the theory. Is the author questioning the theory, or is he saying that the scientists are wrong to question the theory? I'll reset my poll and ask you again. Is it clear why D is incorrect? Is it clear why D is incorrect? So I've got 100% on that now, and that leaves us with our answer, that is E, the author. You can see very clearly how closely it follows. Okay, so you will always not come up with the exact main point, but then you'll get it very close. So the author rejects the various arguments and offers his own arguments instead. So clearly he's responding to the criticism of the theory, and that is the correct choice. All right. So that's great. Let me see how much time we are left with, guys. We're hardly left with any time. What we could do is, we could quickly look at how many of y'all would want to solve that one more passage. Let me just start this poll because it'll take another 15 minutes. So I'm going to go by how many of y'all want to solve that third passage with me here. I mean, it's okay if you don't, because I just need to know. All right, I've got 100% on that. So let's get going, guys. Straight away go to the third passage and attack it. Those of you who do not, you can kind of, it's interesting, you're learning something. So I would say stay put. I'm not going to take very long. So go ahead, guys, start on that third passage quickly. We are not going to go into a detailed discussion of that, but we're definitely going to understand why we are ruling out the choices, the incorrect ones. So go ahead. Another 15 minutes of your time. Get started. All right, guys, you have 30 more seconds. In fact, let me bring up the first poll. All right, let me note the answers. I'm going to count just a quick 10, 5 actually, for you to post your answers. So 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm going to end the poll now, guys. Okay. I'm going to end the poll for question 1. All right. So I have none for A, 23% for B, 17 for C, 52 for D, and 5 for E. I'm going to bring the second poll for the second question. Here it is. Okay. I'm going to start my countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm going to end the poll. Okay, 22% for A, 22% for B, 22% for C, 11 for D, and another 22% for E. This is now seriously something else totally. Let's get started, guys. Okay, so let me get started. All right, I'm going to be a little bit quick about this. All right, so in this paragraph, if we just go through the lines, in the wealth of nations, we're talking about some book or something. um, Adam Smith said that the propensity, that is tendency of truck barter and exchange, the tendency to truck barter and exchange was both, it was the foundation of commerce, that is, it was the foundation of business, and a given quality of human nature. So this truck barter and exchange, that is the inclination towards exchanging and bartering things, was the foundation of business, and it was the quality of human nature. This quality was driven by individual desire. So basically, we are saying, for Smith, business in early modern England, was driven by self-interest of individuals. I have taken early modern England from the next line, so forgive me for that. Okay, Smith's view that, so which view? Self-interest dominated the business, emerged in early modern England. So this view, Smith's view, was that old, and that view has had tremendous effect on how such relations have been perceived. So Smith's view impacted how people viewed business relations. All right. Today, it is typically assumed, for instance. So, this sentence, okay, is given to you as an instance to show how Smith's view has had tremendous effect on how such relations are viewed. So, why? I mean, this instance is being given to show you how people are impacted by Smith's belief. So, in other words, uh, typically today it is typically assumed. Typically assumed whenever the author says, it means he does not believe in that. That the development of business relations weakened the spirit of cooperation that characterized village communities. So, per Smith, Adam Smith, okay, um, per Adam Smith, this selfish motive, this self-interest that dominated businesses, it weakened the spirit of cooperation in the village communities, and it encouraged a spirit of individualism, self-betterment, and this spirit of individualism and self-betterment was against community interest. So, all in all, uh, the typical belief is that business relations have discouraged cooperation, okay, in communities and given rise to self-interest that is against community interest. So, all in all, this paragraph talks about how Smith's view greatly impacted or colored the belief of people about business relation. People believe that business engenders self-interest and breaks up communities. Okay, so this passage is all about how Smith's view impacted how people viewed business relations. Is this clear, guys? Let me just you can answer me in the okay. Let me just bring up the poll. Is this clear? This explanation, is it clear? Okay, I've got 100% on that. All right, let me now move to the next paragraph. However, so once again, we have a however beginning with this. So clearly, the author is now saying something that is against the typical assumption that was mentioned in the previous sentence. However, such a view fails to account. So, this view that business discourages cooperation, that business is all about self interest and against the community interest, this view, it fails to take into account the language that people in early modern England used. Okay, it does not make, it does not understand that, it does not take into account, it ignores it. What was this language? Okay, the people in early modern England used to articulate their understanding of business relations. So people in early modern England, they used a certain language to show what they understood of business relations. And this language, what did it stress on? It stressed on credit, trust, obligation, contracts, rather than self-interest. So clearly, how people viewed business relation was actually different than what typically is assumed. Okay, so throughout this period, so what we are saying here in short is the author's opinion. Now, this entire paragraph is the author's opinion. Such belief overlooks the use of language of trust and credit in business relations. Most businesses were run on credit and promise. That's going to come up. Throughout this period, most business transactions were conducted on credit. Okay. Plain dealing of keeping promises dominated the way in business relations were conceived. So, this business relations were viewed as plain dealing, keeping of promises. Okay. It was considered as an honest, uh, uh, you know, trustworthy relationship, this business relation. Individual profit and solvency were important, but neither could be achieved without trust and direct cooperation of one's neighbors. So clearly here, self-interest could not be achieved without trusting others. As a result, what does the author say? As a result, buying and selling, that means business relations, commerce. Buying and selling is commerce or business relations. Okay. Far from breaking up communities, actually created numerous bonds. So if you look at this last sentence, that's what the author is moving towards. That's the main point. Business relations actually engendered bonds in communities. So the first paragraph, we'll put that together. The takeaway from this paragraph is, however, in reality, business relations brought communities together. Okay. So if we put this together, the para summaries. First para talks about Smith's views. They have impacted the belief of people. People typically think that business relations engender self-interest and they break up communities. The author in the second paragraph says, however, in reality, commerce or business relations brought communities together. So the main point is, although Smith's views about business relations breaking up communities influence public perception of commerce, the reality is business relations brought communities together. Is all of this clear, guys? I've gone a little fast, but let me just ask you, is all of this clear? I think by now you've got the process, so most of you, I think, will understand. Great. So, all of you have got that clear, but I think there was still this confusion regarding the correct answer. So, we'll talk about that. All right. Let me now move to the answer choices. So, our main point is, although Smith's views influence public perception of commerce, the reality is business relations actually brought communities together. It did not separate communities. So the passage, the primary message of the passage is basically to convey this, that in reality, business brings people together. All right. So clearly, it is not, criticizing the theory of human nature. That's a distortion. Just because the word human nature and tendency of humans and something that is a quality of human nature, these words are given. Okay, they are this choice is a distortion by using just those words. All right. So the author is clearly not criticizing the human nature. That's a wrong word to use here. Nobody has chosen A. 23% of you went with B now. Okay, now let me show how B is not the answer. Evaluating the impact of a particular economist on modern theories of economic history. Now, B, if you see, okay, it's limited in scope. It does evaluate the impact of Adam Smith's belief on modern theory of, but then on modern theories of economic history, that's too broad. That's not mentioned in the passage. So this part, evaluating the impact of a particular economist, this is mentioned only in the first para. It's not mentioned in the second para. In the second para, the author's opinion that impact, okay, does not take into account something, and actually what is the reality. So that is not brought out clearly by B. Those of you who marked B, can you see why B is wrong? I'm just going to put up a poll here. Just give me a moment. Those of you who marked B, can you see why B is incorrect? The evaluation of the impact was just there in a small portion in the first paragraph. It's limited in scope, as we say. So let me end this. Great, everybody's got that right. All right. Chronicling is like putting down date-wise, all right, the early history. So when you say chronicling, you're basically saying tracing or putting down date-wise. Has the author done that? No dates, nothing. So clearly, this is not the answer. It's out of scope. The author doesn't talk about, he just talks about that in the early modern England, how business relation was viewed. But it doesn't talk about the history of use of credit. It doesn't talk how credit started and how it ended and all that stuff. So C is not the answer. Reconsidering accepted ideas about the history of business relations. Clearly, if you compare the first para and all, if you see, so earlier the idea was breaking up communities, and then the idea is bringing communities together. So clearly the author is reconsidering, or you can say evaluating the accepted ideas about the history of business relations. So I would put that on hold. Explaining the decline of cooperation in village communities is just the word cooperation in village communities has been taken. Does the author explain that decline? The motive is not to explain. In a small portion, he says in the first paragraph that people thought that development weakened the spirit of cooperation. Okay, but the motive of the passage is not to explain that, and that is not the correct answer. Correct answer is therefore D. 52% of you chose that. So I'm really glad. I think the process that we discussed today really helped you. Did it help you guys? Let me ask this question. Did the process that we discussed today help you in identifying the correct choice in this case? Did it help? Yes, I got 100% on that. Thank you, guys. Now I'm going to see, we are going to see rather, how not the primary motive question also depends on understanding the primary motive. Now, what does this question say? Understanding the question itself is very important half the time. It can be inferred that the author of the passage believes. So we have to identify what the author of the passage believes. So therefore, in other words, we are going to go with this part. Whatever says this believes that economic historians whose views have been influenced by Adam Smith, so in general he's talking about the typical assumption, have failed to examine which of the following have failed. So in the passage, where are we talking about the word fail? Right here. Such a view fails to account for the language that people used in early modern England. Okay. So by and large, these people have failed. They have thought that business relations weaken the spirit of cooperation. They have thought that business relations are against community interest. But in reality, what does the author believe they have gone wrong with? They have failed to understand. They have failed to recognize that people use the language of trust, and therefore business relations actually help to build trust and not break that trust, not break that cooperation. All right. So can you see this? Can you understand this, guys? Let me reset the poll. Can you understand what I just explained? Because then you will see how your answers are incorrect, because most of you kind of got that answers skewed actually. Let me go back to this. So does the author think that the economic historians failed? So economic historians failed to examine the power of business relations. They have not failed to examine that. So clearly that's a distortion and half truth, all right? Just picking words like moral values, beliefs, business relations from the passage and just swinging it into a choice. 22% of you mark that. Please understand, the author is not accusing those historians of failing to examine the power of business relations. He's accusing them of failing to examine the language that people use. So all the other choices are actually incorrect. I'm so sorry, something's gone wrong here. They have not failed to understand the significance of human nature in shaping economic development and social structure. All right, that's again distortion. Here, Adam Smith is all about the significance of human nature. The historians have not failed in understanding anything about that. Importance of village communities in determining, that's completely out of scope. Where does the author discuss, say that historians have failed to examine the importance of village communities? That's not even in the scope of the passage. Okay. Consequence of individual communities of changes in a country's economic structure, out of scope. Very clearly you can see the actual language used by people in village communities to refer to their business dealings. So if you had understood the main point, which relies heavily on this, you would have got E as correct. 22% of you marked E, and the others all have kind of gone almost similarly with the others. So can you guys see how E is correct? Are you clear with E? All of the others are distortions or out of scope answers, guys. They are taking you in another direction altogether, where it's clearly given that the historians, such a view is referring to the view of most historians. Typically, it's saying, I'm sorry, economists, typically, and how it fails to take into account that. So I'm going to end the poll now. I've got this 100% on this.